You know that feeling when you walk away from a conversation and you just feel empty, like someone just unplugged your battery and drained every ounce of energy you had. Maybe it was your coworker who spent 30 minutes complaining about everything, again. Or that family member who somehow turned your good news into a lecture about everything you're doing wrong. Or maybe it's that friend who always has drama, always needs something, and somehow you end up feeling guilty for having boundaries. Here's what I've learned. Some people will drain you if you let them, and for the longest time I thought being a good person meant absorbing it all, listening to every complaint, fixing every problem, saying yes when I meant no. I thought setting boundaries made me selfish. I thought walking away made me weak. I was wrong. The ancient Stoics, philosophers like Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, and Seneca, they figured something out over 2,000 years ago that most of us are still trying to learn today. Real strength isn't about controlling other people or changing the world around you. It's about mastering your own responses. It's about protecting your inner peace like a fortress, even when chaos is swirling outside the gates. And here's the beautiful part. You don't have to be cold or cruel to do it. You don't have to become heartless or cut everyone off. You can be kind and boundaried. You can be compassionate and protected. You can care about people without letting them consume you. In today's video, I'm going to share 13 Stoic-informed strategies that will help you handle difficult, draining, and downright toxic people with clarity, kindness, and rock-solid boundaries. These aren't just ancient philosophy theories. These are practical tools you can use today, right now, in your real life. By the end of this, you'll have a complete playbook for dealing with toxicity without losing yourself in the process. You'll know exactly what to say, how to act, and most importantly, how to protect your peace without apology. So take a deep breath, get comfortable, and let's dive in. But before we start, if you find value in this content, please hit that like button. It really helps this message reach more people who need it. And subscribe to the channel so you don't miss future videos on building resilience, inner strength, and a life you actually want to live. Your support means everything. All right, let's get into it. Number 1. Spot the hook, refuse the bite. Here's how toxic people operate. They cast hooks, little comments, sarcastic jabs, guilt trips wrapped in concern. Those "I'm just being honest" remarks that somehow always leave you feeling small. The goal? To pull you into their storm so they have someone to dance with in the chaos. Think about the last time someone said something that just got under your skin. Maybe it was a passive-aggressive text. "Oh, you're too busy for coffee. Must be nice having such an exciting life." Or the family member at dinner who says, "You would understand if you had kids," knowing full well you've been struggling with that exact thing. These are hooks, and they work because they trigger something in us. Defensiveness, guilt, anger, shame. Here's what Stoic indifference actually means, and it's not what most people think. It's not about becoming emotionless or not caring. It's about choosing not to let their bait set your emotional hook. It's about recognizing the pattern in real time and making a conscious decision. I see what's happening here. I'm not biting. Let me give you a real example. Last month, I was on a call with someone who kept making little digs about my work. "Oh, you're doing videos now? How cute. I guess everyone thinks they're a content creator these days." Old me would have spent 20 minutes defending myself, explaining my credentials, trying to prove I wasn't just some wannabe. New me? I noticed the hook. I literally said to myself, there's a lure. And I let it float right past. I gave a neutral response. "Yeah, it's been interesting," and moved the conversation forward. And you know what happened? Nothing. The drama they were trying to start starved without my participation. They tried once more, got the same non-reaction, and eventually gave up. This is the power of refusing the bite. You're not a robot. You still feel the sting of those comments, but you don't let the feeling control your response. You direct your energy toward what's actually in your control, your reaction, your peace, your boundaries. The next time someone casts a hook your way, I want you to practice this. Notice it, name it silently. That's a lure. And watch it float past without grabbing it. Trust me, it gets easier every time. Now, here's your first challenge. If you're ready to practice spotting the hooks and refusing to bite, type "I see the hook" in the comments. Let's build accountability together. Once you've learned to spot the hooks, the next step is building something even more powerful: walls. Not to keep everyone out, but to protect what matters most: your inner peace. Let's talk about boundaries, all right? Number 2, make clear rules for yourself. Marcus Aurelius was literally the emperor of Rome, one of the most powerful men in the ancient world. And you know what he wrote in his personal journal? You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. Even with all that external power, he knew the real empire to rule was the one inside. Your inner empire needs walls, boundaries. And here's what most people get wrong about boundaries. They think boundaries are mean. They think saying no makes them selfish. They think protecting their energy is the same as not caring. Let me tell you what boundaries actually are. They're the walls that guard your calm. They're the loving act of self-preservation that allows you to show up as your best self. But here's the thing. You can't defend what you haven't defined. So first, you need to get crystal clear on what drains you. Is it the friend who only calls when they need something? The relative who criticizes every decision you make? The co-worker who dumps their emotional baggage on you every morning? The person who doesn't believe in texting back, but expects you to be available 24/7? Write it down. Name what depletes you: constant criticism, manipulation, unsolicited advice about your life choices, one-sided conversations where you're just the emotional dumping ground. Now comes the part most people struggle with: stating your limits. And the key is being clear and kind. Not harsh, not cruel, not dramatic, just honest. Here's what this sounds like in real life. Hey, I've noticed our conversations tend to focus on problems and complaints, and I leave feeling pretty drained. I care about you, but I need to step back from these kinds of talks. Let's try connecting later this week about something positive. Or, I'm not available to discuss my personal choices anymore. I know you mean well, but I need you to trust that I'm making the right decisions for my life. Or even just, I can't take this call right now. Let's schedule a time that works for both of us. Notice what these all have in common? They're firm, but not aggressive. They explain the why without over-explaining. They offer an alternative when possible. And most importantly, they're not up for negotiation. Here's where it gets hard: enforcement. Because toxic people will test your boundaries. They'll push. They'll act hurt. They'll say you've changed. You're being difficult. You're overreacting. This is the moment where most people cave and think, maybe I am being too sensitive. You're not. Boundaries without enforcement are just suggestions, so you have to be ready to follow through. If someone keeps calling during work hours after you've asked them not to, you don't answer. If someone keeps bringing up topics you've said are off limits, you end the conversation. I told you I'm not discussing this. I'm going to go now. I had to do this with a family member who would not stop giving me unsolicited advice about my career. After months of gentle redirects, I finally said, I love you, but if you bring up my career choices again, I'm going to leave, hang up, change the subject. They tested it once. I left the room. They haven't done it since. Boundaries aren't punishment. They're protection. They're you saying, I matter. My peace matters, and I'm not going to sacrifice it anymore. If you're ready to define and defend your boundaries, type "I guard my empire" in the comments. Let me know you're committing to this. Now, even with solid boundaries, toxic people will still try to make their problems your problems. They'll project their storm onto you. So how do we handle that without internalizing their chaos? Let's talk about emotional weather. Number 3, their mood isn't your mood. Have you ever noticed how some people walk into a room and the whole energy shifts? Suddenly everyone's tense, everyone's walking on eggshells, everyone's trying to manage their mood. It's like their internal storm becomes everyone else's climate. Here's what the Stoics understood that most of us forget. Most toxic behavior is projection. It's clouds they're carrying that drift over and cast shadows on you. Someone criticizes your choices, that's usually about their own regrets. Someone constantly finds fault in everything you do, they're probably drowning in self-criticism. Someone tries to control you, they feel out of control in their own life. This doesn't excuse the behavior, but it does help you stop taking it personally. Epictetus, who was literally born a slave and became one of the most influential philosophers in history, taught this. It's not events that disturb people, it's their judgments about them. Listen to this again. The person yelling at you isn't the problem. It's your judgment that their yelling means something about your worth. Let me give you a modern example. I have a friend whose mother is incredibly critical. Nothing is ever good enough. Last year, my friend got a promotion, a huge deal, something she'd worked toward for years. Her mother's response? Well, it's about time. You know Sarah's daughter is already a VP, right? Old version of my friend would have spent the next week feeling inadequate, questioning if the promotion even mattered, maybe even resenting her success. But she'd been practicing Stoic cognitive distance, so instead, she observed without absorbing. She literally said to herself, "This is Mom's pattern. This is about her need to feel superior, not about my accomplishment. This is her storm, not my sky." And you know what? The criticism still stung for a moment, but it didn't stick. It didn't become her internal narrative. She didn't carry it around for days. She let the storm pass without it becoming her climate. This is the practice. When someone dumps their negativity on you, pause. Take a mental step back. Remind yourself, this is about their inner weather, not my worth. You're not responsible for fixing their storm. You're not obligated to stand in the rain with them. You can acknowledge it. I see you're upset, without absorbing it. Here's another way to think about it. Imagine you're wearing a raincoat. The rain is their criticism, their anger, their projection. With the coat, you stay dry. You see the rain, you acknowledge the weather, but you don't get soaked. Without the coat, every drop seeps in, and by the end of the day, you're drenched and shivering. Cognitive distance is your raincoat. Practice this mantra when you feel someone's storm approaching. I observe, I don't absorb. Say it in your head, write it on a sticky note, tattoo it on your brain. Ready to practice this? Type "not my storm" in the comments if you commit to observing without absorbing. Sometimes, though, observation isn't enough. Some people are so determined to get a reaction that they'll escalate and escalate until they get it. For these situations, we need a different tactic: strategic boredom. Number 4, become boring on purpose. The gray rock method. This technique has an actual name in psychology, the gray rock method, and it's brilliant in its simplicity. The idea? Become as interesting as a gray rock, completely unremarkable, emotionally ungrabbable. See, some people feed on reactions. They don't even care if the reaction is positive or negative. They just need engagement. They need the drama, the back and forth, the emotional ping pong. They're like emotional vampires who don't actually want solutions. They want attention. So you starve them, not cruelly, Not obviously. You just become boring. Here's what this looks like in practice. Someone sends you a provocative text designed to start an argument. I can't believe you're making that choice. I thought you were smarter than that. Normal response might be, what's that supposed to mean? You don't even know the full story. I'm making this choice because, and boom, you're in the argument they wanted. Gray rock response, noted. That's it. No defense, no explanation, no justification, no counterattack, just noted. They might try again. That's all you have to say? You're really not going to defend yourself? There's nothing to defend. I'm good with my decision. No emotion, no fuel, just neutral, factual responses. I used this with a former coworker who thrived on workplace drama. She would send these long emails full of thinly veiled accusations, CCing half the team, clearly trying to start something. Old me would have written an equally long email defending myself, addressing every point, maybe throwing in a few professional jabs of my own. New me? Thanks for the feedback. I'll consider it. That's it. Every time. Same energy, same brevity. At first, she escalated. The emails got longer, more pointed, more CC'd people. But I stayed boring. Eventually, she moved on to someone else who would give her the reaction she craved. Here's the crucial part. Gray rock is not stonewalling. Stonewalling is the silent treatment meant to punish. Gray rock is strategic non-engagement meant to protect. You're not ignoring them to hurt them. You're removing fuel to protect yourself. And yes, they will push harder at first. This is called an extinction burst. When someone realizes their usual tactic isn't working, they temporarily intensify it. This is the test. This is where most people cave and think, see, it doesn't work. They're just getting worse. Stay even, stay boring, stay consistent. With nothing to grip, the climb ends. Here are some practical gray rock phrases to use. That's one perspective. I'm not available for that conversation. Okay. Thanks for letting me know. I hear you. I'll think about it. No emotion, no engagement, just beige. If you're ready to become strategically boring with people who feed on drama, type Gray Rock Strong in the comments. Now, sometimes the most powerful response isn't words at all. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is absolutely nothing. Let's talk about the art of the pause. Number 5, master the pause, the art of non-reaction. Silence is one of the most underrated weapons in your emotional arsenal, and I call it a weapon not because it's meant to hurt anyone, but because it's incredibly effective at protecting you. Think about how most conflicts escalate. Someone says something provocative, you immediately respond, they counter, you counter back. Within seconds, you're in a full-blown argument, and you can't even remember how it started. It's like a dance, jab, flare, escalation, explosion. The pause interrupts the dance. Imagine their verbal serve hitting an empty court. They lob the insult, the criticism, the provocation, and it just lands in silence. No return, no volley, just space. This does something powerful. It communicates that you're not participating in the game. You're not playing by their rules. You're not dancing to their rhythm. Here's a real scenario. You're at a family gathering and your uncle starts in with his usual routine. So, when are you getting a real job? When I was your age, I already had a house and 2 kids. Your generation just doesn't want to work hard. Normal response. I do work hard. I'm building something meaningful, not just chasing money and you're off to the races, defending yourself, getting increasingly emotional while he sits back satisfied that he got to you. Pause response. You look at him. You take a breath. You let the silence sit for a beat. Then calmly, and you turn your attention to your meal or someone else. That silence says everything. It says, I heard you. I'm not engaging. This conversation doesn't deserve my energy. Some people can't handle silence. They'll try to fill it, escalate it, break it. What, you don't have anything to say? Cat got your tongue? You smile slightly, stay calm, maybe a small shrug. Your stillness is strength. Your silence is discipline. You're not being rude, you're being boundaried. I used this at work during a meeting where someone was trying to publicly embarrass me. They made a comment designed to make me look incompetent in front of the team. Everyone turned to look at me, waiting for my response. I paused. I took a visible breath. I looked at them calmly, and then I said, I disagree with that characterization, and moved the conversation forward. No defense, no explanation, no emotion, just a pause, a simple statement and forward motion. The power was in the pause. It showed I wasn't rattled. It showed I wasn't playing their game. And the respect in the room actually shifted toward me because I didn't take the bait. Here's the key. The pause has to come from a place of strength, not fear. You're not pausing because you don't know what to say. You're pausing because you're choosing what's worth your words. Practice this in low-stakes situations first. When someone makes a mildly annoying comment, try pausing before responding. Count to 3 in your head. Take a breath. Feel the power of not being reactive. And remember, if they escalate because of your silence, you keep your poise. Your calm in the face of their storm is its own victory. Ready to harness the power of the pause? Type I choose silence in the comments to commit to this practice. Of course, all these techniques work better when you know exactly what you're dealing with. Not all toxic people are the same, and knowing the type helps you choose the right strategy. Let's talk about reconnaissance. Number 6, watch for warning signs. In ancient warfare, the smartest generals didn't just charge into battle. They sent scouts first. They learned the terrain. They identified the enemy's tactics. They planned accordingly. Same principle applies here. To guard your inner citadel, you need to spot the early warning signs of toxicity, because here's the thing, toxic people follow patterns. Once you learn to recognize those patterns, you're 10 steps ahead. Let me break down some common profiles you've probably encountered. The narcissist charms you initially, makes you feel special, chosen, important. But slowly, everything becomes about them. Your accomplishments become competitions. Your struggles become inconveniences to their narrative. They can't handle you shining because it dims their spotlight. Example, your friend who posts constantly about their achievements, but can't say congratulations when you share yours. The energy vampire. These are the people who leave you feeling completely drained after every interaction. They're not necessarily mean or manipulative, they're just constantly in crisis. Every conversation is heavy, every day is the worst day. They suck all the oxygen out of the room with their problems, but never actually want solutions. Example, the co-worker who spends an hour complaining about their relationship, ignores all your advice, then complains about the same thing tomorrow. The chronic critic, nothing you do is ever quite right. They frame it as just trying to help or being honest, but somehow their honesty always tears down and never builds up. They nitpick, find fault, point out flaws. Example, the family member who responds to your good news with, yeah, but, or have you thought about what could go wrong? The guilt manipulator, masters of the emotional puppet strings. They make you feel responsible for their feelings, their problems, their happiness. After all I've done for you, if you really cared, I guess I'm just not important to you. Example, the friend who makes you feel terrible for having boundaries, turning your no into evidence that you're selfish. The gossip. breeds conflict like it's a sport. They tell you what someone said about you, tell them what you said, stir the pot, and watch everyone fight while pretending to be the concerned mediator. Example, the person who starts every sentence with, "Don't tell anyone I told you this, but..." The controller needs to manage your decisions, your time, your choices. Gets upset when you don't ask permission or take their advice. Makes you feel guilty for having autonomy. Example, the partner or parent who needs to know where you are at all times and questions every decision you make independently. Here's why recognition matters. Once you identify the pattern, you stop being surprised. You stop thinking, maybe this time will be different. You stop giving them the benefit of the doubt in situations where they've proven who they are. Maya Angelou said it perfectly. When someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time. Last year, I started working with someone who fit the narcissist profile to a T. Charming at first, slowly turned every project into a competition. Couldn't celebrate any win that wasn't theirs. Old me would have spent months trying to figure out what I was doing wrong, why they were acting that way, how I could fix it. New me? I recognized the pattern in week 3, and once I saw it, I could plan my strategy. I went gray rock in interactions. I set firm boundaries around projects. I stopped seeking their validation. I protected my energy. Awareness is your first gate of defense. Scout the threat. Learn the patterns. Know what you're dealing with, because you can't strategize against an enemy you haven't identified. If you're ready to become a scout and identify toxic patterns before they drain you, type "pattern recognized" in the comments. Now, even with all these strategies, dealing with difficult people takes a toll. You need to actively restore your energy, not just protect it. Let's talk about self-care as a defensive strategy. Number 7, guard your energy with rituals. Self-care as strategy. Let's be real. Self-care has become such a buzzword that it's almost meaningless now. People think it's bubble baths and face masks. And sure, those things are nice. But Stoic self-care, that's different. That's strategic. That's warrior maintenance. Think of it this way. Ancient warriors didn't just fight battles. They maintained their armor, sharpened their weapons, tended their wounds. They knew that survival depended on recovery. You're no different. Every interaction with a toxic person is a small battle. And if you don't restore your energy between battles, you'll eventually collapse. Here's what most people do wrong. They treat self-care as optional, as something you do if you have time, as something selfish or indulgent. So they push through, drain themselves completely, and wonder why they're anxious, irritable, and burnt out. Your restoration isn't optional, it's essential, and it needs to be on your calendar with the same priority as any meeting or obligation. Let me share what this looks like in my life, because it's not fancy or Instagram-worthy. After a particularly draining interaction or difficult day, I have a protocol: movement. I move my body, not a punishing workout, just movement. A walk around the block, some stretching, dancing badly to music in my living room. Physical movement processes emotional energy. It literally shakes off the residue of stress. Journaling, I write it out. Not for publication, not for anyone to see, just raw, honest download. That meeting was awful. I felt small. I wanted to defend myself, but didn't. I'm proud of that. Getting it out of my head and onto paper creates distance. Meditation or breathing, even 5 minutes. Sit quietly. Notice my breath. Let thoughts pass like clouds. This resets my nervous system from fight or flight back to baseline. Nature. If possible, I get outside. There's something about trees and sky and fresh air that puts human drama into perspective. Even 10 minutes on a balcony or looking out a window helps. Sleep, non-negotiable. Protect your sleep like it's gold. Because when you're sleep deprived, everything feels worse. boundaries feel harder, and your emotional resilience tanks. Nutrition. I eat real food. When stressed, it's tempting to reach for comfort food that makes you feel worse later. Instead, I eat things that actually fuel me. Protein, vegetables, water, boring but effective. Micro breaks. Throughout the day, I take 60-second resets. Close my eyes, take 3 deep breaths, roll my shoulders. These micro moments prevent the buildup. But here's the crucial part. I schedule this. It's on my calendar. 7 p.m. recovery protocol. And I defend that time the same way I'd defend a client meeting or doctor's appointment. Because here's what I've learned. A full battery makes every other tactic easier. When you're rested, boundaried, and energized, the gray rock technique feels natural. The pause feels powerful. The boundaries feel non-negotiable. When you're depleted, everything feels impossible, and resentment grows. Self-care isn't selfish. It's the foundation that makes everything else possible. One more thing. This isn't about achieving perfect calm or never being affected. You're human. Toxic interactions will still sting, but recovery rituals ensure the sting doesn't become a wound, and the wound doesn't become an infection. If you're ready to treat your energy like the precious resource it is and build recovery rituals, type "I defend my energy" in the comments. Even with strong self-care, you're not meant to fight these battles alone. We need to talk about your support system, your phalanx. Number 8, stay close to good friends. In ancient Greek warfare, a phalanx was a formation where soldiers stood shoulder to shoulder, shields overlapping, moving as one unit. No single soldier stood alone. The strength was in the collective. You need your phalanx. Even the strongest fortress needs allies. Even Marcus Aurelius, emperor of Rome, had trusted advisors and friends he relied on. The Stoic ideal isn't lone wolf isolation. It's interdependence with the right people. Here's the truth. Trying to handle toxic people entirely alone is exhausting and unnecessary. You need people who steady you, who reflect truth back to you, who remind you of your worth when someone's been chipping away at it. But not just any people. The wrong circle can actually make things worse. People who gossip, who encourage unhealthy reactions, who drain you further. So how do you build a true support system? Look for these qualities. Listeners who don't fix. People who can hear you vent without immediately jumping to advice. Sometimes you don't need solutions. You need someone to say, "That sounds really hard. I hear you." Truth tellers. People who love you enough to gently call you out when you're wrong, when you're overreacting, when you're being unfair. Not to hurt you, but to help you see clearly. Virtue models. People who embody the qualities you want to grow. Calm in chaos, boundaried without guilt, kind but firm. You become like the people you surround yourself with. Safe spaces, people you can be messy with, where you don't have to perform or pretend or be strong all the time. Where you can say, "I'm struggling," and it doesn't become gossip or judgment. I have a friend, let's call her Sarah, who is my phalanx captain. After any difficult interaction, I can text her. Not for her to trash the other person, not for validation that I'm right and they're wrong, but for recalibration. Last month, I had a conflict with someone and I was spiraling. I was convinced I was totally in the right, and they were completely unreasonable. I texted Sarah, gave her the full story. Her response, "Okay, I hear you." That sounds frustrating. Can I offer a different perspective? Because I think you might be missing something. And she was right. She helped me see where I'd been reactive, where I'd missed their point, where my own stuff was getting in the way. She didn't coddle me or blindly support me. She loved me enough to help me see clearly. That's a phalanx member. Now, how do you cultivate this? You can cultivate this using these simple tricks. Share honestly. Don't pretend you have it all together. Vulnerability builds real connection. When you share struggles, you give others permission to do the same. Reciprocate. Support isn't a one-way street. Show up for them too. Listen, reflect truth, celebrate wins. Join communities aligned with your values. Whether it's a philosophy group, a spiritual community, a hobby group, or an online forum, find your people. Shared values create strong bonds. Say thank you often. Gratitude cements relationships. When someone shows up for you, acknowledge it. Thank you for listening yesterday. It really helped. Protect the circle. Don't let toxicity in. Be selective. It's better to have 3 genuine allies than 30 surface-level connections. I'm part of a small group that meets monthly. We share struggles, practice Stoic principles, hold each other accountable. That circle has saved me countless times. When I'm doubting myself, they remind me who I am. When I'm being unreasonable, they gently redirect me. When I'm exhausted, they help carry the load. You're not meant to face the storms alone. Build your phalanx. Stand shoulder to shoulder with people who make you stronger. Ready to invest in real connection. Type shoulder to shoulder in the comments if you commit to building or strengthening your support system. Sometimes, though, even with support, you'll face people who keep pushing, keep manipulating, keep trying to wear you down. For these situations, you need a specific tactical response: the broken record. Number 9, the steady loop reply, broken record technique. Manipulators are masters at shifting ground. They'll try different angles, different emotional appeals, different guilt trips, all to get you to cave. They'll argue, justify, wheedle, guilt, anger. They're testing to see which button works. Your job? Don't give them different buttons to push. This technique is beautifully simple. You repeat your stance calmly with the exact same language, no matter what they throw at you, like a broken record. Same sentence, same tone, no variations, no additional justifications. Let me show you this in action. Scenario: someone wants you to commit to something you don't want to do. Them: you have to come to this event. Everyone's going to be there. You: I'm not able to attend, but I hope you have a great time. Them: but it won't be the same without you. Don't you care about celebrating with us? You: I'm not able to attend, but I hope you have a great time. Them: wow, I can't believe you're being so selfish. After everything I've done for you. You: I understand you're disappointed. I'm not able to attend. Them: can't you just explain why? Give me a good reason. You: I'm not able to attend. Notice what's happening? They're throwing everything at you: guilt, anger, demands for explanation. And you're a rock in the stream. The water rushes around you, but you don't move. You don't get pulled into defending, explaining, justifying. Here's the power of this technique. Manipulators rely on variability. They need you to engage with different parts of their argument so they can find weak spots. When you stay exactly the same, there's nothing to grab onto. I used this with a family member who kept pressuring me to loan them money. They had a million reasons why I should. A million guilt trips about family loyalty, a million promises about how they'd pay me back. My response every single time: I'm not able to help financially, but I'm happy to help you research other options. They tried anger. You're sitting on money while family struggles. Me: I'm not able to help financially, but I'm happy to help you research other options. They tried guilt. I thought family meant something to you. Me: I understand this is hard. I'm not able to help financially. They tried bargaining. What if I paid you back in just 3 months instead of 6? Me: I'm not able to help financially. After about 15 minutes of this, they gave up. And here's the beautiful part. I never had to defend my decision. Never had to explain my finances. Never had to justify why I had boundaries around money. Here are some key principles for using the broken record. Keep it short. Long explanations give them more to argue with. Keep it consistent, exact same words. Don't vary the language or they'll think there's room to negotiate. Stay calm, same tone every time. Neutral, kind, firm. No justifications, because invites argument. I'm not able to is complete. Validate feelings without changing stance. I understand you're upset, plus, and my answer is still no. To help you practice or understand better, here are some common phrases that work. I'm not able to do that. That doesn't work for me. I don't discuss this topic. My decision is final. I've already answered that. I'm not available for that conversation. This isn't combative, it's not rude, it's consistent. And consistency is something manipulators can't work with. They need chaos, emotion, variability. You give them none of that. The broken record says, I'm unmovable. There's no crack to wedge open. No amount of pushing will change this. And eventually, they learn to stop pushing, ready to become unmovable when it counts. Type broken record in the comments to practice this technique. Now, here's something that trips up a lot of good-hearted people. The belief that we can fix or save everyone. We need to talk about releasing the fixer role. Number 10, you can't fix other people. This one is hard, especially if you're empathetic, caring, and genuinely want to help people. But here's the uncomfortable truth. You cannot rescue someone from a mindset they're committed to. Listen to this again. You cannot rescue someone from a mindset they're committed to. The Stoics were crystal clear on this. You control your choices, not other people's change timelines, not their willingness to grow, not their readiness to see their patterns, not their desire to be different. Epictetus taught his students to focus ruthlessly on what's in their control and other people's choices, not on that list. Let me tell you about someone I tried to fix, a friend who was perpetually in toxic relationships. Every few months, a new person, same drama, and every time they'd call me, crying, venting, asking for advice. I'd give advice, good advice. Set boundaries. Communicate clearly. Don't accept that behavior. See the red flags earlier. They'd agree enthusiastically. You're so right. This time will be different. I'm going to do exactly what you said. And then nothing would change. Same patterns, same choices, same results. New person, same story. And you know what I was doing? I was exhausting myself trying to fix something that wasn't mine to fix. I was carrying their emotional weight. I was staying up late talking them through crises they'd created. I was giving and giving and giving, and nothing was changing. Here's what I finally learned. Offering help is kind. Making yourself responsible for someone else's transformation is not. So what do you do instead? Offer a resource. Once. Here's a book that helped me. Have you considered therapy? Here's a different way to look at that pattern. Say it once, maybe twice if they genuinely seem open. Then step back. Don't keep pushing. Don't keep offering unsolicited advice. Don't make it your mission to change them. Model the virtues. Live the life you want them to see. Be the calm in the storm. Demonstrate healthy boundaries. Show what emotional regulation looks like. Sometimes people learn more from watching than from advice. Set limits around the helping. I care about you, but I can't be your crisis counselor anymore. It's draining both of us. I think professional support would be really helpful. Let consequences teach. This is the hardest part. When someone keeps making destructive choices, sometimes the kindest thing you can do is step back and let them experience the natural consequences. Pain is often the catalyst for change. that comfort never is. I had to tell my friend, I love you. And I can't keep having these conversations. I've shared my perspective. You know what I think, but ultimately, these are your choices to make and your lessons to learn. I'm here for you in other ways, but I can't be your relationship therapist anymore. It felt harsh in the moment, but it was actually the most loving thing I could do for both of us. I stopped enabling the cycle. I freed up my energy for people who were actively working on their growth, and honestly, it forced them to actually deal with their patterns instead of outsourcing the emotional labor to me. Here's the truth. Some people aren't ready to change. Some people are getting something out of their dysfunction, attention, identity, the comfort of familiar pain, and that's their right. You don't have to make them ready. You don't have to wait around hoping they'll finally hear you. Your job is to live your values. Their job is to live theirs. This doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you care in a way that doesn't destroy you. You can love someone and still have boundaries. You can hope for their growth while not making it your responsibility. The Stoics would say, wish them well and focus on your own character development. If you're ready to release the fixer role and focus on what's actually in your control, type "not my lesson" in the comments. Even with all these boundaries and techniques, sometimes you simply cannot avoid certain toxic people. Maybe they're family, co-workers, or in your social circle. So let's talk about damage control, limiting exposure. Number 11, spend less time with them. Here's the reality. You won't always be able to completely avoid toxic people. Maybe they're your co-worker and you share projects. Maybe they're family and you'll see them at holidays. Maybe they're in your friend group and cutting them out means losing everyone. So when you can't create physical distance, you create strategic distance. You minimize dosage. Think of it like this. You wouldn't stand in a room full of smoke if you could help it. But if you have to be there, you limit your time, you protect your breathing, and you leave as soon as possible. Here are some practical ways to limit exposure. Reschedule strategically. If someone always wants to meet for long dinners where they dominate the conversation, suggest coffee instead. 30 minutes, standing room, easy exit. I can do 3 p.m. for coffee, but I have a hard stop at 3:30. Shorten calls, use call limiting strategies. I only have 10 minutes but wanted to check in. Set a timer if you need to. When it goes off, I need to hop off, but let's talk later this week. Redirect topics. When they start down a toxic road, redirect firmly. I don't want to talk about that. Tell me about neutral topic. Do this every time. Train them that certain topics go nowhere with you. Excuse yourself. You don't need a big excuse. I need to use the restroom. I'm going to grab some air. I need to make a call. Give yourself breaks in extended interactions. Use buffers. If you have to see them, bring someone else. A buffer person changes the dynamic and prevents them from dominating or targeting you. Create mental space when you can't create physical space. This is crucial. You can be in the same room with someone and not be emotionally available to their toxicity. Let me give you an example of mental distancing. I have a relative who is relentlessly negative at family gatherings. Complaints about everything: the food, the weather, their health, politics, other family members. Everything is wrong, broken, terrible. I can't skip family gatherings entirely, but I can mentally distance myself from the negativity. Here's how I do it. Reframe. They're having a rough time. This isn't about me. I remind myself that their negativity is their pattern, not my problem. Observe like a scientist. I get curious instead of engaged. Interesting. They went negative in under 2 minutes. That's a new record. This creates emotional distance. Limit response. I give minimal neutral responses. That's tough. I'm not feeding it, but I'm not fighting it either. Shift attention. After a brief acknowledgement, I turn to someone else. Aunt Maria, how's your garden doing? I physically move my body, my eye contact, my energy to someone positive. Time limits. I show up, I'm present, but I leave earlier than I used to. 2 hours instead of 5. I protect my exposure time. Post-interaction recovery. After these events, I do my recovery protocol. Walk, journal, decompress. I don't let the residue sit. The key is this. You're not trying to change them. You're not trying to manage their mood. You're not trying to make the interaction perfect. You're simply minimizing damage and preserving your peace. Another tactic, put your attention on what's good, meaningful, and under your influence. At that family gathering, I focus on the relatives I actually enjoy. I help in the kitchen where there's useful work to do. I play with the kids who are full of joy. I choose where my energy goes. You can't always choose your environment, but you can always choose your focus. I worked with someone toxic for 2 years, couldn't leave the job, couldn't avoid collaborating with them, so I minimized brief email check-ins instead of long meetings, shared documents with clear action items instead of open-ended discussions. I kept every interaction focused, boundaried, and short. It wasn't ideal, but it was manageable, and I protected my sanity by not expecting it to be different than it was. If you're ready to strategically minimize exposure where you can't create full distance, type minimal dosage in the comments. But sometimes, and this is important, sometimes minimizing isn't enough. Sometimes the healthiest, most stoic choice is actually to walk away completely. Let's talk about exits. Number 12, knowing when to walk away. This might be the most important point in this entire video. Sometimes the right move is leaving. The Stoics weren't about enduring everything forever. They weren't about martyrdom or pointless suffering. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it. And this you have the power to revoke at any moment." Sometimes revoking your estimate means revoking your presence. Here's how you know it's time to walk away. You've tried everything. You've set boundaries. They've been repeatedly violated. You've communicated clearly. They've ignored or dismissed it. You've used all the techniques, gray rock, broken record, pauses, and nothing changes. You've given them resources, time, patience, and still the behavior continues. Your well-being is eroding. You're anxious before seeing them. You're exhausted after. You're losing sleep, losing joy, losing your sense of self. The cost of staying is higher than the cost of leaving. The relationship is one-sided. You're doing all the emotional labor, all the accommodating, all the changing. They give nothing back. They're actively harmful, not just annoying or draining, but actually damaging your mental health, your reputation, your other relationships, or your safety. You've become someone you don't like. Their presence brings out the worst in you. You're reactive, defensive, small, mean. You don't recognize yourself anymore. If most of these are true, it's time to consider the exit. And here's what a Stoic exit looks like. It's not dramatic. It's not vengeful. It's not a big announcement of all their faults. It's simply a clear, firm, respectful withdrawal. Here are some good ways to exit, depending on the relationship. Workplace, if it's a job, sometimes you leave the job. If it's a coworker, you limit to professional-only interactions, request different projects or teams, or involve HR if behavior is inappropriate. Friendship. I've realized our relationship isn't healthy for me anymore. I wish you well, but I need to step back. Then you actually step back. No more hangouts, no more long text conversations, no more being available. Family. This is the hardest. Sometimes you go low contact or no contact. You decline invitations, You keep interactions brief and surface level. You create distance while still being civil at required events. Romantic relationship, you end it. Clearly, completely. This relationship isn't working for me. I need to end it. No ambiguity, no maybe we can try again later. Clean break. I had to walk away from a friendship that had been toxic for years. We'd been close once, but over time, every interaction left me feeling small. They criticized my choices, dismissed my feelings, made everything a competition, and never celebrated my wins. I tried everything first. I set boundaries. They pushed past them. I communicated how I felt. They told me I was too sensitive. I limited contact. They guilt-tripped me back in. Finally, I wrote a short message. I've realized our friendship isn't healthy for either of us. I care about you, but I need to step away. I wish you well. They responded with anger, then guilt, then bargaining. I didn't engage. I held the line. It was sad. It felt like grief. But you know what? Within a month, I felt lighter. I had more energy. I stopped second-guessing myself constantly. The space they'd occupied filled with peace. Walking away doesn't mean you failed. It means you chose yourself. It means you recognized what you can't control, their behavior, and exercised what you can control, your participation. Acceptance isn't defeat. It's clarity about what isn't yours to fix. And here's something important. Walking away doesn't have to mean hatred. You can release someone without demonizing them. You can acknowledge they're struggling with their own stuff while still choosing not to be collateral damage. You can wish them well from a distance. The Stoics called this amor fati, love of fate. Accept what is, don't rail against reality. If a relationship is toxic and won't change, accept that truth. And then, with clear eyes and a steady heart, choose your path forward. Free the time and heart space for relationships that actually nourish you, for people who reciprocate, for connections that make you better, not bitter. If you're ready to honor yourself enough to walk away from relationships that erode your well-being, type "I choose me" in the comments. And finally, after all the boundaries, all the strategies, all the walking away, there's one last piece, maybe the most important piece. You have to forgive yourself. Let's talk about laying down the weight. Number 13, lay down the stone. Forgive yourself. Here's something nobody talks about enough. Dealing with toxic people doesn't just leave you angry at them. It often leaves you angry at yourself. Why didn't I see it sooner? Why did I let them treat me that way for so long? Why didn't I speak up? Why am I so weak? Why do I keep attracting these people? These thoughts are stones, and carrying them is like hiking with a backpack full of rocks you don't need. Resentment toward them, toward yourself, is exhausting. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his Meditations, "How much more harmful are the consequences of anger and grief than the circumstances that aroused them?" The person who wronged you has moved on. They're living their life. Meanwhile, you're carrying the weight of what happened. Who's really suffering? Stoic forgiveness isn't about saying what they did was okay. It's not about forgetting, excusing, or allowing it to happen again. It's about releasing your grip on the anger so you can move forward. Here's what forgiveness actually means. Acknowledge the hurt. Don't minimize it. Don't pretend it didn't matter. Yes, that person hurt me. Yes, I was treated unfairly. Yes, I stayed longer than I should have. Practice self-compassion. Talk to yourself the way you'd talk to a friend. You wouldn't tell your best friend they're stupid for trusting someone who lied. You'd say, you gave them a chance because you're a good person. You couldn't have known. Give yourself that same grace. Reframe with perspective. Ask, what did I learn from this? How am I stronger now? What boundaries am I clearer on? Who do I no longer tolerate in my life? Every toxic relationship is a teacher. Maybe it taught you about red flags. Maybe it taught you about your worth. Maybe it taught you that you can survive hard things. Release the should-haves. You did the best you could with the awareness you had at the time. Looking back with current wisdom and judging past decisions is unfair. You didn't know then what you know now. Let go of the narrative. Stop replaying the conversations. Stop imagining what you should have said. Stop writing the perfect comeback in your head. Every time you replay it, you re-experience the pain. The person isn't even there, but you're giving them space in your mind, rent-free. Reclaim your power. Marcus Aurelius reminds us, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Your power isn't in changing what happened. It's in choosing what you do next. I spent months angry at myself for staying in a toxic work situation too long. I knew it was bad. I knew I should leave, but I stayed because I was scared, because I needed the money, because I didn't trust myself to find something better. When I finally left, I carried so much self-directed anger. I'd replay moments and think, why didn't you speak up? Why did you let them talk to you that way? You're so pathetic. Until one day my therapist asked, what would you say to someone you love who went through the same thing? I paused. I'd say they did the best they could. I'd say staying doesn't make them weak. It makes them human. I'd say I'm proud they eventually got out. So why can't you say that to yourself? That question changed everything. I started practicing. Every time the self-criticism started, I'd pause and reframe. I stayed as long as I needed to for my own reasons. I learned what I needed to learn. I left when I was ready, and now I'm free. The stones got lighter. Eventually, I put them down. Here's a practice that helps. Write a letter to yourself, not to the person who hurt you, to yourself. Acknowledge what you went through. Apologize for the harsh judgment you've been carrying. Thank yourself for surviving. Thank yourself for the boundaries you're building now. Thank yourself for choosing growth. You don't have to send it anywhere, just write it, let it out, and then let it go. Forgiveness is how you reclaim your energy. It's how you stop letting past pain dictate your present peace. It's how you move forward lighter, steadier, and available to actually good relationships. You deserve that lightness. You deserve to move forward unburdened. If you're ready to lay down the stones and forgive yourself for whatever you're carrying, type "I release the weight" in the comments. So, here we are. 13 Stoic strategies to handle toxic people without losing yourself in the process. Let's recap what we've covered. 1. Spot the hook and refuse to bite. Don't give their bait your reaction. 2. Raise your ramparts. Define and defend your boundaries consistently. 3. Remember, it's their storm, not your sky. Don't absorb their projection. 4. Become boring on purpose. Remove fuel from drama by going gray rock. 5. Master the pause. Silence is strength. Use it strategically. 6. Scout the threat. Know the toxic patterns so you can plan your defense. 7. Guard your energy with rituals. Recovery isn't optional, it's essential. 8. Build your phalanx. Surround yourself with people who steady you. 9. Use the broken record technique. Repeat your boundary calmly, consistently. 10. Release the fixer role. You can't rescue someone from a mindset they're committed to. 11. Trim contact and minimize dosage when you can't fully avoid someone. 12. Choose the exit with honor when staying erodes your well-being. 13. Lay down the stone, forgive yourself, and release the weight. These aren't just philosophical ideas. These are practical tools you can start using today, right now, in your actual life with your actual difficult people. And here's what changes when you apply these. You shift from target to tactician. You move from reacting to choosing. You stop being the person things happen to and become the person who decides what you'll allow. Your inner citadel, your peace, your calm, your sense of self, is worth defending. It's the most valuable thing you have. And nobody, no matter how toxic, no matter how persistent, has the right to tear down your walls unless you let them. So guard it. Guard it with clarity. Guard it with compassion for yourself. Guard it with disciplined calm. And watch what happens when you stop feeding the storms. They lose their power. You are stronger than you think. You are more resilient than you know. And you absolutely have the right to protect your peace. If this video helped you, please share it with someone who needs to hear this message. We all know someone dealing with a toxic person, someone who needs permission to set boundaries, someone carrying stones they need to put down. And remember to hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss future content on building inner strength, resilience, and a life that actually feels good to live. I'll see you in the next video. Until then, guard your citadel. You've got this.